And as great as he is, the word bust comes to mind.
StephenASmith is sounding the alarm on what could be a financial collapse that threatens to derail Zion Williamson's entire career, and the evidence is nothing short of shocking. When Stephen A speaks, the basketball world pays attention, but his latest revelations didn't just spark conversation. They set off a tsunami that's still rippling through the NBA. His sharp, unrelenting criticism of Zion has already become legendary in sports media, but this time, it went far beyond performance on the court. What makes Stephen A's take so explosive is that he wasn't just analyzing basketball, he was digging into the financial side, almost like a forensic investigator. Piece by piece, he's used interviews, public appearances, and controversies to lay out a case suggesting that Zion Williamson is heading straight toward financial disaster.
Zion Williamson is a star caliber talent. When he is on the court and healthy, he's a monster. The problem is he's rarely available.
The precision in that statement. StephenASmith isn't questioning Zion's talent. He's questioning his value proposition. In professional sports, talent without availability inevitably translates into financial loss. And Stephen A identified this equation long before it became obvious to the rest of the world. His relationship with Zion Williamson has always been shaped by sharp, often unforgiving criticism of Zion's performance and personal decisions. But what makes Stephen A's approach so striking is the way he used his platform not just to critique, but to expose deeper character flaws that he believed would eventually manifest as financial vulnerabilities. The weight controversy became his primary weapon, but it was never just about physical appearance. For Stephen A, it was a symbol of larger issues: financial discipline, professional accountability, and the ability to properly manage a nearly $200 million investment. In other words, the debate around Zion's weight wasn't only about conditioning, it was about whether he had the maturity and responsibility to safeguard both his career and the massive financial resources tied to it.
Zion Williamson, he looks fat. He looks fat. While LeBron James had dropped 30 in 3 quarters and had completely dominated and looked in peak physical condition, Zion Williamson, who's more than 15 years younger, went to the free throw line. I saw a belly. When he took a deep breath, his belly bounced.
Genius of Stephen A's approach becomes clear when you realize what he was truly exposing. This wasn't body shaming. It was economic analysis disguised as sports commentary. The weight issue was never just about fitness. It was a metaphor for discipline and accountability. If Zion couldn't control his weight, how could he be trusted to control his finances? If he couldn't uphold the most basic professional standards, how could he possibly manage the complexities of superstar-level wealth? Stephen A framed the conversation in a way that transformed a physical concern into a broader indictment of Zion's ability to sustain his career and protect the massive financial investment tied to his...
But you look like you showed up to the game having just ate a buffet. Not something from the buffet, the buffet. Like you ate the damn table.
The metaphor of eating the entire table wasn't just colorful commentary, it was Stephen A's coded warning. He was using food as a symbol for overindulgence, illustrating excessive consumption patterns that extended far beyond diet. In his framing, someone who can't regulate consumption in one area of life is unlikely to show restraint in others, including money management. The most damning piece of Stephen A's critique came when he zeroed in on Zion's deep connection to New Orleans culinary culture. On the surface, it sounded like light-hearted banter about gumbo, beignets, and southern comfort food. But beneath it, Stephen A was presenting a financial case study that Zion's inability to moderate his lifestyle choices in one of the country's most indulgent food cities was a red flag for his overall discipline. To Stephen A, New Orleans wasn't just Zion's team city, it was a mirror reflecting the habits that could sabotage both his career and his fortune.
You got chefs in New Orleans who love him. They're looking for him. Every chef there wants to meet him because they know he'll show up to their restaurant. The word out on Zion Williamson is that he'll eat the table.
Exactly, that's where Stephen A's critique went from entertaining commentary to analysis. His observation wasn't just about Zion's eating habits. It was about the psychology of excess and the ecosystem of exploitation that surrounds athletes who lack boundaries. When chefs in New Orleans reportedly wanted Zion at their restaurants because they knew he'd show up, it revealed something deeper. A young star who couldn't say no. That pattern of always saying yes, of always indulging, is the same vulnerability predators, whether in business, nightlife, or financial circles exploit to drain wealth. So when the suspension controversy hit, Stephen A. had the perfect inflection point. What began as lifestyle criticism, weight, diet, indulgence evolved seamlessly into financial accusations. He framed Zion not just as an athlete with conditioning issues, but as an asset in danger of collapsing under mismanagement. This wasn't random outrage, it was calculated. Stephen A. was laying out a cautionary tale. Zion wasn't just risking his body, he was risking the hundreds of millions invested in him. Want me to extend this into how Stephen A. used that suspension moment to position himself as both a critic and a truth-teller about financial discipline in the NBA?
He is stealing money. He is stealing money. And I say that not to question the legitimacy of his injury. I'm saying that to question his professionalism.
Stealing money. Those two words mark the peak of Stephen A.'s long-running case against Zion Williamson. This wasn't just hot take TV or exaggerated outrage, it was the sharpest form of critique. A direct accusation that Zion was failing to deliver value equal to the massive financial commitment made to him. From the organizational standpoint, that's the textbook definition of financial mismanagement. But Stephen A.'s most prescient moment came during the Mariah Mills controversy. While most of the media treated it as gossip fodder, he framed it as a window into Zion's decision-making, exposing how personal choices bleed into professional consequences. His ability to connect the dots between off-court indulgence, lifestyle, recklessness, and long-term financial risk revealed the depth of his analysis. In Stephen A.'s framing, the scandal wasn't about tabloid drama, it was evidenced in his larger case. Zion was living without boundaries, and that lack of discipline threatened not only his body and reputation, but also the hundreds of millions tied to his career. Would you like me to expand this into a full section where I show how Stephen A. positioned himself as the only voice willing to expose Zion's off-court choices as part of a bigger financial collapse narrative?
Because all I can think about is, man, you only played 29 games last year. And you missed the season before that. And I've been wondering what the hell is taking you so long to get healthy. Well, now I know.
This moment was Stephen A. at his investigative best. While most commentators got caught up in the salacious details or leaned into moral judgments, Stephen A. was operating on a different level, drawing a straight line between Zion's personal behavior and his professional output. He wasn't just talking about scandal. He was diagnosing a pattern, personal choices undermining professional obligations. That pattern, as he framed it, wasn't isolated, was a warning sign of deeper issues that would later surface as serious legal and financial consequences. Stephen A.'s critique of Zion's professionalism sharpened even further during the suspension controversy. Here, he expanded his case, connecting the dots between personal responsibility and financial stewardship. In his view, Zion's inability to manage himself wasn't just a matter of discipline, it was a liability that put his career earnings, team investment, and long-term reputation at risk. With hindsight, Stephen A.'s framing now looks less like commentary and more like prophecy. Do you want me to continue shaping this into a narrative arc, almost like a documentary script where Stephen A.'s warnings build step by step until they explode into the full financial collapse theme?
Yeah. Put Molly and Shannon up on the screen, please. I better not find out this has something to do with food. I'm not joking. I better not find out this has something to do with food.
Obsession with food wasn't really about diet at all. It was Stephen A.'s metaphor for something much bigger. He used it as a lens to highlight addictive behavior patterns that often spill into other areas of life, particularly financial decision-making. In his framing, someone who can't control their relationship with food might also struggle to regulate spending, investments, and broader financial obligations. That's why Stephen A.'s critique carried so much weight. It wasn't surface-level body talk. It was economic analysis in disguise. The culmination of his long-running investigation came with his infamous bust declaration. But here again, he wasn't simply delivering a basketball verdict. He was issuing an economic prediction that Zion's inability to manage himself would ultimately translate into a failure to manage the responsibilities and wealth that come with being the face of a franchise. Do you want me to expand this into a final build-up section where the bust declaration is positioned as Stephen A.'s ultimate prophecy about Zion's financial collapse?
And as great as he is, the word bust comes to mind, not because of his talent. I'm only talking his availability. If you're not available,
It doesn't matter how great you are.
In April 2025, StephenASmith labeled Zion Williamson a bust due to his frequent injuries, despite acknowledging his immense talent following Williamson's season-ending back injury. However, calling someone a bust in the context of a nearly $200 million contract extends far beyond sports performance. It is about return on investment, financial value, and economic viability. What makes Stephen A's perspective remarkable is how he connected surface-level observations into a comprehensive profile of someone heading toward financial instability. Zion's weight issues highlighted a lack of self-control. His professionalism problems suggested disregard for financial obligations. His personal life controversies revealed poor decision-making, and his injury history underscored unreliability. Each of these concerns might seem ordinary for athletes, but together they painted a picture of a player at serious financial risk. Although Stephen A's criticisms often focused on Zion's physical fitness and availability, the genius of his approach was that these seemingly simple points exposed deeper character flaws that would inevitably manifest as financial vulnerabilities. The statistics reinforce this analysis. Williamson has missed over 200 NBA games, while playing only about 200. Creating exactly the availability crisis, Stephen A warned, was financially unsustainable. Paying superstar money for part-time performance effectively means subsidizing someone else's inability to manage professional responsibilities. The first major validation of these warnings came in July 2023, when Encore PBC, a California-based blockchain technology company, filed a civil lawsuit in New Orleans alleging that Williamson and his family failed to repay $1.8 million of a $2 million loan taken in September 2021.
I don't call Jimmy Garoppolo porn star Jimmy for nothing. The man went to a damn restaurant in Melrose, and right there in Beverly Hills, with the porn star. Clearly, you wanted everybody to know you porn star Jimmy. Porn star Zion doesn't exactly ring the same way as porn star Jimmy. But that porn star didn't talk about Garoppolo the way this one is talking about Zion.